Doom is, well, it's Doom. Innovative, creative, violent, and intimidating. Doom is one of the most influential series of video games created that remains strong today. Why? Because killing hordes of demons is fun. This core idea allowed the series to flourish over the decades both artistically and technically. And although the visuals of Doom have only improved over time, appearances are not everything when it comes to what fundamentally made the original Doom games so enjoyable, even to this day. In this video, we'll be analyzing elements of Doom from the earliest versions of both Doom 1 and Doom 2, each of which were released back in the ancient times of the early 90s, and compare those two games against the newest iterations in the franchise, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. But what's to compare? Obviously, one set is newer, far more cinematic, takes up significantly more space on your hard drive, and nearly crashes my OBS most of the time when I try to record its mere gameplay. However, what makes these four games worthy of analysis are their two distinct interpretations of not only gameplay, but also of hell and its inhabitants, as well as the various sounds, whether it be music, guns, or the cries of the damned. It's time for two malefic visions of Doom to compete head to head, and there's really only room for one winner in this video, made entirely by a fan since the wee ages of 3. Will it be the tried and true titan of the 90s, held together by little more than silly putty and duct tape? Or will it be the flashy fever dream of the 21st century with an exponentially larger budget? Get comfy, folks, because this video was not intended to be brief. Opening with hanger because this is the old Doom part. Real smart. Yeah, I am, because context is crucial. Without overindulging in selling points others have already undoubtedly made about this permutation of Doom, or crafting some lengthy homage to any of the big names behind this project without viewers questioning my sexuality, let's talk Doom. As a creation of fantastical projections of biblical horror, Doom opened an electronic door to darkness for a chance to fight the collective nightmares of the West. In real time, people were not only able to simulate possible confrontations with the Inferno, but simulate demonic encounters in 3 somewhat full dimensions. Space became a real and negotiable asset in the struggle of good versus evil. Players are given an infinite amount of moves to make in an endless amount of time against the forces of the damned. There are seemingly infinite routes Doom Guy can maneuver to tackle each level, and no two runs of any particular level, even by the same player, are ever exactly the same. In the background, time constantly works to coordinate various states within the game engine, but a level in Doom will not end until either the exit is reached and victory is achieved, or until the game is closed. Dying won't stop the music from playing, nor will it stop the demons from moving to the groove of your failure, meaning the objective is clear and self-explanatory. There are no tutorials, only carnage. This is original Doom, man. At worst, sometimes the game will take one screen in between missions for a brief exposition to frame the demonic slaughter, but that's it. This Doom has no intention of holding the player's hand and even openly mocks frustrated spirits eager to turn away from the challenge ahead. There's only one way out, and the path bloody yet simple. Nothing but instant and immediate action. No scores to keep, no character screens to peep, no perks to slot, no shops to add Scott. Nothing keeps Doom Guy from shredding Imp's face off. But when it comes to Doom, there's one topic we gotta cover first above all others, and that is Okay, look, Decino already made a fantastic, awesome, great, mega wonder video covering Doom weapons and their stats, and you should totally check that video out if you haven't already, because it's great, and he's great, and most of the data that I'm going to cover in this next section can also be found in further detail in that video. But for the purposes of this video, I thought it both important and necessary to touch on this topic again, because it's really difficult talking about Doom without mentioning words like weapon, shotgun, or BFG. Throughout the many levels of original Doom, the player will come across a plethora of weapons, and each are placed in unique number slots related to ammo type and level of firepower. Every gun in original Doom has a unique purpose and is best utilized in specific situations. For instance, most players quickly discover that it's a bad idea to use the rocket launcher up close or to use the super shotgun from far away. Why? Because of an ingenious concept called practicality. It's not practical to use the rocket launcher up close, nor is it practical to use the super shotgun from far away. But the game never prevents the player from doing so outright, because in rare cases, it may actually be the right move to make. All weapons in original Doom are equal parts skill and luck, requiring accurate shots as well as lucky slots, with virtual dice packed inside every single attack. Each weapon has its own variable damage range, which causes near infinite variation in ammo consumption when the random number generators start chugging away in the background. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let us examine each gun in Doom, starting with the first gun of all. Or, actually, why don't we start with the weapon Doom Guy was born with as a baseline for other weapons to be compared to? When the player's out of ammo, there's always a spiked knuckle eager to bash apart the very flesh of the wicked. Conceptually, bare hands have no real place in a fight against a horde of demons, but using the fist is not entirely impractical either, and can be leaned on with extreme precaution. Enemies capable of a ranged attack are more likely to strike the closer Doom Guy is in relation to their current position. So, going in for a deadly blow with your fist puts the player at the greatest risk. The fist has roughly the same damage range as the pistol, and can therefore be thought of as a melee pistol. Every successful punch saves Doom Guy a bullet, making demon slaughter environmentally friendly for the little conservationists in each of us. And we haven't even gotten to the best part about the fist in original Doom. In the shape of a black medikit comes one of the most devastating power-ups in all of Doom in the hands of an aggressive player. Once acquired, the screen takes on a red tint for a short duration, and Doom Guy gets so, angry that he forcibly swaps out whatever gun he has currently equipped for his own fist, and for good reason. Berserk causes the damage range of the fist to jump a full 10-fold for the rest of the current level. Sadly, this also means that after the player enters a new level, Doom Guy's once devastating dukes return to regular mortal might, leaving him quite vulnerable to any variety of unsightly vermin, which honestly is a good thing. Otherwise, this power-up would outright nullify most other weapons for a good majority of Doom 1 and many parts of Doom 2. However, because the player has to locate a Berserk pack in every level, and not every level comes with a Berserk pack, this adds a great layer of exploration and strategy. It makes you as a player have an innate desire to want these kinds of goods after a few uses, if not outright after the first. Once obtained, this power-up transforms a once weak and pathetic weapon into a comically strong option in Doom Guy's arsenal, and one of my personal favorites. Moving on, we have the ranged fist, otherwise known as the pistol. Aha, yeah, you didn't think I was going to talk when I was introducing guns. Well, you're wrong. It's my video. I get to do what I want. That's what I want to do. Compared to the previous weapon, the pistol is a lot more consistent in its potential damage. Although its maximum potential damage in any given shot is less than the maximum damage roll on the fist, the Beretta pistol is Doomguy's trusty firearm. Fitted in the number 2 slot, this bad boy is the weapon the player is introduced to when starting up original Doom for the first time. No cutscene, no text tutorial to explain how to use it, just bam, gun raised, ready for action. This puppy can fell most low-tier enemies with only a handful of shots, but anything bigger than an imp will require some patience while plinking away. But if Doomguy must plink a target from far away, let him plink wisely. An important concept in this iteration of Doom is that Doomguy hasn't learned how to tilt his neck up and down yet, because he is literally a child with undeveloped motor functions. To compensate for this horrific defect, the game has an auto-aim feature for targets on the Z-axis, so Doomguy can curve bullets up and down at his foes. No wonder demons are afraid of this guy. At least he only knows how to walk, because he also can't technically jump either, unless you're a dirty cheater. Another important concept to understand in original Doom when utilizing hit scan weapons with long range such as the pistol or the chain gun is the notion of tapping. Tapping simply refers to the player holding down the fire button just long enough to discharge the first firing cycle. Doing so will ensure each bullet is sent directly downrange, as opposed to holding down the trigger, which results in less accurate shots. And hey, these concepts apply to real life. Crazy, wowee! However accurate the pistol is, this tiny weapon offers pathetically little damage, much like the fist without Berserk, hence the nickname. And just like the fist, it's not supposed to. As increasingly more enemies appear, and in tougher variety, the player realizes that the pistol, even with the trigger held down, takes way too long to clear nearly most encounters before Doomguy would be surrounded and slain. So, find another weapon as quickly as possible. Not even Doomguy can last long with only a sidearm and a spiked knuckle against these aberrations of evil. He's gonna need something a whole lot worse. The final solution to the demonic question in original Doom is without a doubt a wooden stick with a metal barrel that launches buckshot, capable of firing 7 pistol shots at once. Those in the know call this weapon the multi-shot pistol, because that's what it do. Because of this, it's not hard to understand why this sucker is leaned on for a good majority of Doomguy's adventures, from Phobos to Deimos and onto the surface of hell itself. It freaking hurts. One pull of the trigger can make any unfortunate dead soldier or imp caught in its path to meet their end instantly, and only a few more blasts are enough to take down nearly all foes in the game. So yeah, again, this thing hurts. It also shoots in a horizontal row, which is kind of funky, but it does make the shotgun a predictable and useful tool for both its stopping power and its spread. 2 great features the prior ranged fist weapon lacked. Nearly all levels in this breed of Doom are quick to pit the player against a shotgun guy. Hey, why isn't it just shotgunner? As a convenient yet intelligent way to allow the player access to higher grade firepower early on in every level. Find one of these fellows, myrtleize them, and just like that, Doomguy has his favorite gun. Luckily, Doomguy has multiple favorites.
He's like his grandpappy from Wolfenstein.
Doomguy also enjoys riddling his enemies with a rapid-fire pistol. The chain gun is a devastating weapon that is sometimes criminally underrated in the eyes of many players. This is what Doomguy uses when he needs to prevent enemies from attacking in tight quarters by repeatedly triggering their pain state, or when he needs to snipe pesky enemies from afar with that little tapping mechanic we touched on earlier. The chain gun has only 2 major applications of suppression and sniping in original Doom, but from time to time it is always great fun to hold down the trigger in front of a crowd of zombies, imps, and pinkies. Watch them all fall to the floor. But if there is a rapid fire pistol, is there a rapid fire fist? Glad you totally asked, because we got this weapon sucks, this weapon sucks, this weapon sucks, it sucks ass, it sucks ass. Well, there isn't a whole lot to say about this thing, other than it is a joke weapon to bait new players into a false sense of security before the fun comes to a grinding halt. Just don't use this. There isn't a single level in all of original Doom that places this weapon in an intelligent spot. Why? Because there isn't an intelligent spot to place this weapon before 10 times out of 10 the player already has better options to choose from both prior to picking up the chainsaw and after. Seriously, even the pistol is better than this thing. The only advantage the rapid fire fist has is that it does not consume ammunition, much like its slower counterpart. But beyond that, I'm half tempted to hurl using this weapon outside of gathering footage for it. While I can appreciate the fantasy this weapon is trying to bring, strategically this weapon only ever keeps the player too close to danger with too little damage to justify the thin spatial divide. If at any point in your gas-fueled rampage your chainsaw doesn't trigger a monster's pain chance or outright mutilate them, be prepared to be blasted, have your face scratched off, or your brains melted. What makes berserk-laden fisting so much fun is the singular punch tearing off the flesh of the damned. This just makes you sit there and wait. Oh boy. That'll come back to haunt us in spades later on in the video. Grade F. Wait a minute. The icon of Sin Killer. This beast is Doomguy's initial reflex when a ferocious demon must die, as well as everything nearby that spawn of evil. The rocket launcher is the first weapon I actually can't somewhat link to the fist. Just know this sucker hurts, and not just once over from the initial explosion, but potentially twice for the accurate lobber that directly connects their rockets onto a target. Every rocket fired from this weapon has infinite range, until they collide with something, of course. All demons can be reliably dealt with using this weapon because they take both direct damage from the rocket and splash damage from the subsequent explosion. However, boss enemies receive only direct rocket damage, so contrary to conventional wisdom, I recommend against using this weapon on these two whenever possible, as it is largely an ineffective use of Doomguy's ammunition. Besides those two prima donnas, every other demon is open season and will die in only a few blasts. No wonder these things are so hard to find and only come with 2 rockets. As mentioned previously, avoid firing this weapon too close, otherwise Doomguy will receive splash damage from his own rockets, depending on how close he is in relation to the explosion. This means the rocket launcher is the only weapon in Doomguy's entire arsenal that has the potential to harm even Doomguy himself. Talk about collateral damage. Oh baby, this is a good one. The square space vacuum shoots fast blue projectiles that deal high damage and quickly make mincemeat of any enemy in its path. It's an energy-based chain gun, and much like the hit scan counterpart, the plasma rifle is not only good for its damage, but also to keep enemies perpetually stunned long enough to melt them into demonic goo. There isn't a single demon capable of withstanding a stream of these blueberries for long. Even the proud ones are no real match should Doomguy have enough cells. Like the rocket launcher, the projectiles from this weapon have infinite range, but unlike the rocket launcher, these blue balls have no splash damage. In order to deal damage, the player must land their shots. Luckily, this thing has a hard time missing when the trigger is held down long enough. Reliable, accurate, and fast. This is what Doomguy uses when the fight becomes overwhelming and brutal, but the player doesn't want to quite blow themselves up with the rocket launcher. Who said the future couldn't be fun and dangerous? Big Gun and version 9000. Whether designated that particular model number for marketability or because all prior BFGs were just that terrible, the BFG 9000 is without a doubt the strongest weapon in all of original Doom. At the cost of 40 cells and after a brief delay, this deluxe vacuum cleaner dispenses large green energy balls capable of vaporizing all lesser demons in a single trigger pull. Even boss monsters are quick to fall to the BFG, that is, if Doom Guy hits his enemy with both instances of damage. Okay, so the BFG really isn't that complicated, but a lot of people try to make it sound a lot more than it really is. But in this next section, I'm going to try and explain how the BFG's first and second instance of damage work. The BFG fires projectiles that deal direct damage that then trigger a secondary instance of damage after the trigger is pulled. But unlike the rocket launcher, the BFG's secondary damage doesn't come from a subsequent explosion. Instead, it comes from invisible tracers that fire from the location the trigger was originally pulled only after the initial projectile reaches a target, and only if the BFG is facing any enemies in the same direction where the projectile was just shot out. If the player hides behind a wall or looks in a different direction after launching their energy booger, only the projectile will be capable of dealing damage. But if Doom Guy shoots his energy snot at a wall and then peeks over at a bunch of foes, the tracers will still inflict damage. So, time your shots properly for the most damage and try your best to enjoy the view. There's plenty to gawk at. And that's all the weapons in original Doom, I think. I hope I'm not forgetting any. Nah, I'm certain we covered them all. Yep, positive. I absolutely, definitely did not forget about the most overpowered gun of them all. The super final solution to anything with a pulse or anything remotely resembling a face is another wooden stick with two metal barrels that each fire buckshot. But hold on a second, you say in your jovial ignorance. How can this be the most overpowered weapon in all of original Doom if the BFG is the strongest? Because of that ingenious concept I mentioned earlier called practicality. While the BFG 9000 deals significantly higher damage per shot, it requires 40 cells to fire an extremely risky projectile that can potentially do no damage if you miss and look away, or even worse, little damage from poor luck.
There's your 40 plasma rifle.
Not only does the player have to land the projectile, they also have to wait for the windup before each blast, as well as ensure staying in relatively the same location, looking in the same direction for maximum value. By contrast, the super shotgun has the greatest power to cost ratio of all weapons in Doom, requiring a measly 2 shells to reliably dispense 2.25 times the damage of a normal shotgun. This mutation of mankind fires a blanket of hit scan pellets instantly to demolish whatever is standing in its line of sight. This thing fires like 16 pistol shots at once. About the only downside this weapon has is its noticeably longer reload animation compared to the regular shotgun. But who cares? This is fun incarnate, and Doom Guy reloading those two metal chambers is the necessary rest for such an activity. Just look at him go. But in order to fully appreciate each of these guns in original Doom, many fans, including myself, play the game a little differently than most other shooters. Pistol starting in Doom means that the player resets their inventory and health on each level. Doing so forces the player to become familiar with every gun in the game and to respect each weapon on its own terms. Pistol starting adds another layer of enjoyment for more experienced players by highlighting the strategic purpose of each gun at Doom Guy's disposal within any given level. I say gun, not weapon, because the fist without berserk and the chainsaw are both largely useless options with no real applications outside of very niche situations. I know, I was hyping up the chainsaw earlier as best I could, but if you have a gun, use that over any melee option, which in of itself is purposeful and makes practical sense because firearms are supposed to be superior to the melee alternatives in the real world, when ammo is available, of course. If a player is ever looking for an added challenge to test the limits of their demon slaying skills, ID Clev or map commands quickly become a familiar tool to reset Doom Guy's inventory and health after completing each level. Well, I'm not really sure what that was about, but let's talk monsters. Just as there are a plethora of weapons in original Doom, so too are there a whole host of nightmarish creatures eager to rip Doom Guy in half upon the slightest mistake. While a number of these walking freak shows aren't terribly bad to deal with, hell has a few showstoppers capable of upstaging any player under the right circumstances. Enemies in video games are special because they are the opposition players must surmount in order to advance onward in their journey. These are adversaries to be slain, not fled from or fooled, at least in theory. The demons in Doom come in all shapes and sizes, and both older and newer Doom largely make use of the somewhat immortalized roster of fiends that all seek to tear out Doom Guy's lungs at the slightest glance. But for now, let us take a closer look at the enemies in original Doom. Wait, not that close. Unlike weapons, enemies are a little harder to talk about in principle, because whereas guns are solutions, enemies are the problem presented to the player, and these problems can be enormously diversified and complexified. It's nearly impossible to pin down every use of each type of enemy because enemies work together and they can also fight at the same time. Not only that, but enemies and their immediate challenge are intimately tied to one important concept: level design. As a player in a video game, you can't have any understanding of the problem without a clear understanding of context, and strictly speaking, that's exactly what level design is supposed to give. Some rooms are wide open arenas with lots of space to move around in. Some aren't. Some rooms have lots of good lighting, while others don't. And some use varying elevation while others are flat. And every variation of environment can be paired with every variation of enemy. This is then built upon room after room, which we finally call a level. What I mean is that the enemies in the level, well, they talk to each other, they're in communication, they feed off one another, and because of this, it makes it difficult, if not unknowable in some real sense, to describe each of these enemies in the same way that we did with the weapons. Especially given today's wacky world of WODs, there are still novel and interesting applications of every mixture of monster in different environments forced to be solved with specific weapons within that particular level. So, monsters. Oh, this guy? Oh, well, he sucks. And if you ever die to him, you should feel bad. But seriously, the zombie man is the weakest and slowest buffoon in all of hell, really only ever meant to acclimate Doom Guy for the carnage ahead, or to wear him down in mass droves while the serious threats wait for their time to strike. These are hell's useful idiots, carrying little more than a pea shooter. They're slow to move, slow to fire, and easy to kill. Ah, the shotgunner. One of the deadliest enemies in all of original Doom. Wait, already? Turns out, when you give a shotgun to a zombie, well, that kinda hurts, you know? Considering how previously we mentioned Doom Guy's shotgun has 7 pistol shots, then in theory, bunching up multiple zombie men into a single dude that moves faster and has slightly more health is not a fun time. And seeing multiple shotgunners, well, that ain't no good neither. For the love of God, kill shotgunners quickly. If any of them have a clear shot on Doom Guy, each accurate blast will eat away significant chunks of health. You might be thinking, this is the second enemy? Well, my friend, Doom wasn't meant to be easy.
And it only gets worse from here.
Oh, this is a very, very scary mon. The chain gunner is a nasty, rapid-fire variant of the zombie man with even more health than the shotgunner and with even more potential to eviscerate the player in no time at all. Much like the shotgunner who drops a shotgun when killed, the chain gunner, well, he drops a chain gun. A word to the wise, do not try to be a hero and stand your ground out in the open when several of these guys show up. Yeah, Doom is some revolutionary game about no cover, forward gameplay philosophy, my ass. Chain gunners in the right scenario make it impossible to walk down certain hallways until they are dealt with. But see, this too, my viewer, is one of the reasons why original Doom is so great. Enemies are practical problems solved in practical terms. There's an enemy blocking your path trying to kill you? Well, kill him back and walk over his corpse. That's the way video games should be done. A give and a take. Constant negotiation between player and the universe. If you show anyone who's been around a computer in the last 30 years a picture of this brown dude, they'll immediately recognize Doom. If zombie men are hell's useful idiots, then imps are the common foot soldier. Thankfully, their health total is less than a chain gunner, meaning a well-aimed shotgun blast will still take care of these walking weaklings more often than not. These are Doom's first enemy with a projectile-based attack, which is huge. Okay, so an imp will throw a fireball at the player if they have a clear line of sight, or simply scratch Doom Guy if he's close enough. But unlike hit scan, the damage from these attacks, they're entirely dependent on where the player is positioned. So until the enemy projectile reaches some form of terrain or another enemy, the potential damage is fair game. Remember that part about space being a real and negotiable asset in the struggle of good versus evil? Well, this is what I meant by that. Doom Guy must learn to dodge and weave through enemy attacks in order to minimize damage, and heed this lesson well, for the demons ahead do far more damage. Hey, it's that fast-moving heap of flesh everyone who wasn't born in a mad scientist lab calls a pinky. Considering the name Demon can be applied to nearly all enemies in Doom, the official name for this creature is a bit misleading, hence the aforementioned nickname. Pinkies are fast-moving meat mounds that chase down Doom Guy in an effort to bite his face off as quickly as possible. While intimidating to look at, Pinkies are one of the few melee enemies of original Doom, meaning they only deal damage up close. And given how fast Doom Guy is, Wait, have I mentioned how speedy this dude is? Look at this guy go. Wait, nothing's on the screen. Hey, roll the footage! basically, unless the player is trapped within a tight place, pinkies can be kept at bay simply by moving around.
And we call this term kiting in the gaming world. It's really important. You should definitely write it down because it'll totally be on the quiz.
But Doom Guy doesn't only kite demons around. He blows their f***ing faces off, and pinkies are best slain in a few blasts from a shotgun, a berserk-laden fist, or with one well-aimed rocket. Oh, you can't see the monster? Yeah, there are partially invisible pinkies called specters. Keep your eyes peeled for their faint shimmer, and don't get spooked. Da Spirit Mosquito. A lost soul is not that bad on its own, but when the annoying gnat from below comes in large numbers or with other enemy types, it's not long before Doom Guy has a real nuisance on his hands. Lost souls serve a similar purpose as zombie men. They aren't an immediate or serious threat, but they will wear down Doom Guy over an extended period of time and get in his way. If ignored, these guys can dive in and eat away at the player's health. The most interesting part of a lost soul, though, is that they are their own projectile. So these monsters fly through the air like rockets or fireballs do in order to deal damage, but with their own body. So it's sort of like a melee attack with flight. You can think of these guys as Hell's mini dive bombers. Hey, isn't this copyright infringement? Inspired from a little game called Dungeons and Dragons, meet the beholder with horns instead of magical eyeballs. These big mouth floating thingies are nothing more than levitating imps with more health and a deadlier projectile. The most annoying element of these enemies is common throughout all flying enemies in original Doom. They float away like dumb f***ing balloons at the slightest shot, and then a waiting game ensues unless Doom Guy's got a chain gun to snipe them with. Blast these pumpkins to bits with 2 rockets or a double dose of double-barrel destruction and keep moving, for there are even greater evils still lurking amongst the shadows. Hey, knock it off! That's valuable game footage you guys are wasting. Get out, go, shoo, pack it up. We've already played this song too much. We gotta move on. Super soldiers from hell. The only major difference between the red and beige colored goat boys, outside of their palette differences, are their health totals, which the barons have more of, twice as much as the Hell Knights to be exact. For the sake of comparison, Hell Knights have more than 8 times the health as an imp, which means barons have over 16 times the health of a regular imp. Because of their noticeably higher health total, these two enemies showcase how not all enemies in original Doom can be defeated in only a few blasts from the multi-shot pistol or with one measly rocket. Suffice to say, when levels in a map pack begin frequently utilizing enemies of this caliber, the player will begin to understand the meaning of the phrase knee-deep in the dead. Do not mess around with Hell's Royals, for all it takes is 2 unfortunate hits from these enemies without any armor to become a pile of melted flesh. Look at this dude, walking around like he owns the place. When one of these critters mechanically skitters into view, a quick decision must be made as to whether or not Doom Guy can kill it fast enough. Because if not, well, the player better find a wall to quickly swoosh behind. Once these tech nids start firing, they will not stop until either Doom Guy is out of sight or dead. So how does the player know if they can kill these spiders fast enough? Well, that's easy. You gotta have rockets for the BFG. Why these weapons? Well, this is what it looks like when Doom Guy uses the overpowered super shotgun on the Geek Squad from hell. It's just not efficient, and this is also true of other high-end enemies like Hell Knights or Barons, but the projectiles fired from Arachnotrons travel too fast to simply move side to side without taking damage, unless the player utilizes cover or moves around the tech spiders in a circle. If Doom Guy ever happens to run into an Arachnotron on its own, dispose of the sucker ASAP before it has a chance to set up and fire a continuous stream of green plasma. Wait. Plasma? What are demons doing with scientifically advanced weaponry anyway? It's a tough question with no obvious answer. The blending of demonic with technologic has always been one of the allures to the monsters of Doom. It could suggest differing levels of intelligence across demonic species, or at the very least differing fields of expertise. While spider demons make use of technology, the mystical arts are left to other, more suitable hands, like imps, barons of hell, and... It is just a theory after all. So who's next? It's the delinquent monster, lost Caco, brown boy thing? Yeah, I don't know what this is. I just work here. Pain elementals are actually harmless if the player gets up close to one and gives it love and eternal affection. Alas, love in a cruel world like this never lasts long before too much separation transpires, and before you know it, someone starts up chucking flaming skulls of the damned out of their mouth at the other person. I've seen this story play out too many times to keep falling for it. I said I wasn't gonna do this anymore. Okay. To see these brown balloons is to see floating infinite ammo dumps. What makes these demons terrifying is that unlike other games, Original Doom is all about resource management. At any given level, there's only a limited amount of ammo to deal with a limited amount of enemies. Pain elementals don't care about your limited ammo. Pain elementals float around and continually spawn lost souls for Doom Guy to fight until he dies. The moment the player spots a pain elemental, kill it, and kill it, to avoid wasting more ammo than necessary, because while lost souls are not the hardest hell spawn to deal with, they are the most annoying demons to face. What just happened? Hold on, I have a backup. Let me see if this will work. And there. Fast, frightening, and ferocious. The amalgamation of corpses with a sole purpose of total destruction. Stitched together with an irate temper, these bones of the damned were meant to quickly retaliate against any and all attackers. Revenants are Hell's vanguard with unique behavioral quirks. The moment a player damages a Revenant, a ranged revenge shot will always be fired back at Doom Guy. They're also fast on their feet and possess a melee attack that sounds like the player got the absolute shit kicked out of them. Oh, and the worst part about Revenants? Homing missiles. Revenants fire projectiles that actively chase the player, completely changing how players approach any fight. Walls are Doom Guy's only ally when it comes to destroying trailing missiles. Or even better, the player can lead them into other enemy types to cause a little chaos. How does the player know when the Revenant will fire a homing missile exactly? You don't. Revenants have either a 25% chance or a 75% chance to fire a homing meteor at the player, depending on the specific game tick original Doom is on. Be thankful Revenants don't have more health, or these enemies would easily be the worst enemy in all of original Doom. Pump 2 rockets or 2 super shotgun blasts into these guys, and always make sure to watch your back. If a map set has a lot of Revenants, well, you know what they say, no rest for the living. Satanic sidewinding artillery desperately in need of a diet. Mancubus lob 2 large pressurized tufts of their inflamed methane at Doomguy in volleys of 3. Each deadly volley is fired at a slightly different angle to punish heavy-footed players. Mancubi themselves are slow to move and easy to hit if Doomguy can get close enough to one on its own. If only that were so easy. In the nightmare of reality, what makes Mancubi dangerous is that they adhere to the Infernal Buddy system and fight in pairs. Or mappers place them high off the ground to rain fart fire from above. A common scenario dubbed multiple Mancubian mayhem occurs when several of these demons fire upon Doomguy from different sides that make fast footwork and taking cover the player's only means of survival in the fart-fueled bullet hell, if that's even possible. Yeah, keep telling yourself you're worse than the demons. That's why you're always the one running around looking for cover. Spot the evil healer to know a wicked death dealer. Defeated in the slaughter, learn that it's really a demented daughter. Oh, for the love of... Hello? Where's my music? Oh. Well, okay. Archviles are Lucifer's disciples, harnessing the power of his false light in a malefic duality. With the touch of the morning star written within their souls, these demons are capable of easily casting spells without utilizing an artifact like a staff or a wand. Those things are for amateurs anyway. Out of all the monsters we've covered so far in Original Doom, the higher being before you now is the fastest, most dangerous, most terrifying, and most privileged demon in the entire roster. If the player bumps into one of these freak shows, I mean perfect beings, with nothing but a pistol and no walls to cower behind, well, it was nice knowing ya, because there is no outplaying this guy. You see, every monster we've covered so far has either tried killing Doomguy by shooting, blasting, or by biting his face off, which are all preventable in many cases provided the player dodges or kites away from the monster. Ho ho ho! But not this guy. With nothing but a glare and a desire to see Doomguy fry, Archviles cast a fire spell meant to ignite the player in an infernal implosion. Flames cover the entire screen, and after a delay, an explosion instantly hits Doomguy, even briefly launching him airborne from the force of the attack. The only way to prevent this outcome is to run away like a little baby behind a wall. Or, if the player is feeling lucky, they can try to attack an Archvile to stagger them, but considering their pain chance is less than 4%, unless Doomguy has a BFG or a super shotgun handy, I wouldn't chance it. However, the player cannot choose to simply ignore an archvile either. Leave any student of the Morning Star around and... Yeah, not only are Archies dangerous to look at, but these guys pain elemental the player by resurrecting fallen enemies.
Well, gosh, do dang diddly.
You think to yourself,
Anytime fight stirs up, I'll just wrestle up some other monsters, kill them archviles.
and you, sounding like a southerner for some reason, would be right in assumption, yet critically wrong in practice. Sadly, demons are demons, and what does that entail in this day and age? You guessed it, racism. Let me tell you, those demons sure are racist. Archvile privilege is alive and real. You can't get any of these creatures from below, not even boss monsters, to willingly hurt archviles. Now, accidentally, of course, and when it does happen, Archies will infight other demons. But ain't no hellspawn putting they hands on any servant of the false light, let me tell you that much. Maybe all the other demons are just afraid of incurring Lucifer's wrath. You can't get any of these creatures from below, not even boss monsters. Boss monsters. Boss monsters. Boss monsters. How do I get out of here? What's the spell again? Oh yeah.
Malaka malabalasha malakala.
Huh? Oh, yeah. This fat ass. I mean, the Spider Mastermind. No, Spider Masterminds? How many of these are there in original Doom? One? Is it two? Who cares at this point? For a boss enemy, this hunk of junk is largely a joke. These girls might look big, but a Spider Mastermind is nothing more than an oversized chain gunner with more health. Wait, maybe that does sound scary. And you know what? This enemy could have been a lot scarier if not for one goofy quality. Her size. I'm sorry, but someone had to say it. Spider Masterminds needed to shed some pounds because her hitbox and pain chance are both way too big. Each one is a walking building that in practice is far too easy to be hit by anything and everything in this game. Spider Masterminds often get swept up in the maelstrom of monster infighting, which, while we're on the topic, amongst the spiraling voices of chaos and dementia, the fathomless depths of darkness spew forth entities desperately yearning for a quieting of the tormented cries of sinners that fuel their very existence amidst the mortal plane below the heavenly veil from which God alone observes. I know this topic is rarely, if ever, addressed in Doom, but one must understand that every single demon within this game is filled with excruciating agony, unbearable torment, and endless suffering that not even the most severe burns of mortal flesh can relate to. For it is a wound of the soul, a pain not many living mortals will ever understand until they pass into the beyond, only to be brought back once again. For a soul to be brought back from the beyond necessarily sprouts forth this degree of pain that erodes nearly all faculties of mind that only the most stalwart of constitutions can withstand, leaving only remnants of self and soul. The end result? A cast of enemies that largely act on instinct. Because, let's face it, the demons of Doom do not plan, they do not coordinate attacks, they don't even make attempts to communicate with each other. It is simply baseless, raw carnage. And in that blind bloodshed, a rule is born on the battlefield: retaliate against that which strikes first. Whenever Doom Guy encounters an enemy, their first reaction is to scream out and chase him until death. But, as previously mentioned, demons hold on to only a fragment of sentience in the physical world, for their vessels are incompatible in our denser dimension. Should any demon experience pain, they will seek out and kill whatever attacked their unstable bodies. Yeah, I said unstable. Why do you think so many demons randomly melt or seemingly fall apart when their life force runs out? Ask any expert, and most of these death animations make little to no sense from excessive gunshot wounds. It's best if Doom Guy doesn't interrupt these domestic demonic disputes, or he's liable to once again become their sole target, especially with one in particular. And it's the only demon we've yet to cover, and he's the most iconic boss monster in all of Doom. The cybernetic behemoth with a rocket launcher that reduces everything to red paste. Stop and stare at this fusion of flesh and floppy disks, and Doom Guy's already dead. Walls are this demon's best friend, while an open arena and fast feet are the challenge to meet. Meant to put the player to the test? Don't bother bringing any other weapons but the best. One of the best infighters? Try your best not to interrupt his fiendish desires. Overwhelming at first glance, but nothing more than another target in Doom Guy's dance. Yeah, you like that? Well, I'll do this for nothing. Oh wait, I'm not getting paid anything for this. Cyber demons are so cool. Don't even think about messing around with these mecha goat gods. Because cyber demons have twice the amount of health as spider masterminds, half the hitbox, and they fire 3 rockets at the player that all have the potential to instantly end Doom Guy. Yeah, these aren't some wimpy demon rockets either that id Software programmed specifically for the cyber demon. Nope, he shoots 3 rockets. You know, like the kind Doom Guy fires. Oh, and you being a guy that's human and everything means rockets deal direct damage and subsequent splash damage. So, what was the max rocket damage again? Oh my fucking god, I wasn't asking for you to play the fucking clip again. Wait. That can't be right. Is it seriously 288 max damage? Yeah, damn, that's a lot. Okay, bring back in the cool music. Keep in mind above all else, the boss monsters are immune to splash damage. In order to deal with the baddest demons in all of hell, Doom Guy needs the baddest weapons around. Only use the super multi-shot pistol or the BFG 9000 to turn the cyber demon into a corpse? That's just 2 evil hooves and a pile of blood.
Nah, man, it's not out of the ordinary. Anytime you get shot anywhere, there's quite a big old explosion. They just go boom, man. I don't know what you're talking about, but around these parts, you just poke down, it's like TNT. One time, me and my buddies were scoping out here.
Yeah,
can
someone cut his mic? So, that's all the monsters. What's next? Wait, what do you mean you didn't cover all the monsters? Who did I miss? We just did the boss monsters, and before that was all the regular demons. I have no idea. Oh, yeah. These guys. The liaison between zombie men and chain gunners whose allegiance is known in an instant. These aren't any servants of Satan, but whoever they serve, he's got a goofy looking stash. The Schutzstaffel, what the hell, of Wolfenstein are enemies that were implemented largely as a reference to id Software's prior game, hence why the player will only ever encounter these enemies in the secret levels of Doom 2. Out of every enemy in original Doom, this one has the least amount of field time in commercial and community Doom, because everyone in the community is a fucking and doesn't want to be called nasty names in a video game about gore, blasphemy, and death. They think that by whitewashing Nazis as Satanism, that somehow their sins against the Almighty will be forgiven, but
They're all sadly mistaken.
and yes, I am looking at you, E1M4.
Well, looks like we're gonna have to take away your ability to eat food.
Nah. But from a design perspective, the idea of an enemy not quite as annoying and lethal as a chain gunner without being quite as laughable as a zombie man is something I can get behind. Wish more map sets made use of these blue uniformed hit scanners as a potential combatant alongside shotgunners. Okay, now, We're done. Yeah? There's no more? No, those aren't enemies. Barrels do more damage. Return to center. Return to center.
Get blasted, loser.
If you've watched all the way to this point, you're probably wondering why in a video called Doom vs. Doom did I bother spending so much time introducing weapons and showcasing monsters for original Doom?
30th anniversary.
Am I gonna do the same for newer Doom? Hell no. Shit takes way too long. The reason why I bothered doing it for original Doom at all is because everything about this iteration of Doom harkens back to that one elusive word I used earlier in the video, practicality. But there's another equally significant word, intentionality. You see, original Doom is encased in an almost unspeakable harmony between self and the world, player and the level, Doom Guy and the demons. Every level in original Doom is a dance, a symphony of survival, brutality, and horror, whose movements are always unique, even if the tempo remains mostly oblique. Every great level in Doom subconsciously understands this concept, that every room, every monster, every weapon placed, and every bit of health and ammo must be intentional. All of these elements must serve the purpose of organically orchestrating the player to the exit. And any one of these elements I just mentioned can make or break a level if it is out of step with the other pieces. You don't drop players into a level with one small room, a pistol, and an archvile, because there isn't any fun in that. You're only ever going to die. There's no formula for success baked into that level, and therefore there's no fun to be had.
And if game not fun, why play?
To understand how original Doom is critically a game about intentionality and practicality, it helps to understand what the game is being intentional about, and how. Even the sound design in original Doom follows the two pillars of practicality and intentionality, because each soundbite serves a purpose. Whether it's the sound of monsters waking up, the sound of Doom Guy picking up a weapon, the sound that each projectile makes when launched at the player, or even the classic serves a purpose. Guys, thank you. There is not a single sound in the game that exists to fluff or pad out the environment. Both visually and auditorily, the player knows immediately when an archvile wakes up and approaches them versus a revenant, because the sounds and looks are distinct and clearly defined. Newer Doom, on the other hand, Now, there are heathens who will proclaim that what you just experienced is fine, but objectively speaking, and in my opinion, audibly and visually, this is far from divine. Even if you subtract the QuakeCon audience sounds, I don't think a single monster sound was audible. And more importantly, to the point I'm getting at, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters whether or not you as a player hear a monster waking up, or no. They don't wake up in newer Doom, because every single encounter, the Doom Slayer has a homing device on his Praetor suit. So all major fights are only ever teleport ambushes. I don't think it matters whether or not I heard an enemy projectile being fired at the Doom Slayer, because who cares if he takes damage when every single demon becomes a health station that varies depending on how much health the Doom Slayer is missing. It doesn't even matter whether or not you save ammo when the chainsaw nearly refills all guns, so just save time and use the infinite ammo cheat, because the game already wants you as a player to always have ammo at all times. And when you combine infinite ammo with infinite health, it doesn't even matter what enemy you focus first in newer Doom. It's whatever the player feels like shooting at first. It simply does not matter. It simply does not matter. There is no intentionality or practicality in newer Doom.
Oh, this is a blasphemy which we cannot tolerate. Prepare to be blasted by Shiva himself, and we will see you in the seven hells.
What? Go away. Sorry, I got a little carried away. Think of it as a taste of what's to come.
Crying like a little baby about that which you cannot understand?
No! Let me do my freaking thing. As we are pushed further away from original Doom and into newer Doom, keep in mind these crucial words as we take our journey through Doom from the 90s and into the distant future of 2016 and 2020. 2020. Huh. You know, 60 years ago, scientists were talking about the possibility of controlling the weather. And now there's a climate crisis. Thanks, Obama.
Perhaps we are approaching an era where weather modification will not just be an interesting laboratory experiment, but something that is of significance to everybody. We will learn to put the finger on the trigger that releases climatic change, that changes the patterns of storms.
Stop!
And now, without further ado...
Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk. Our interest in their world was purely for the betterment of mankind. You think the only way is to kill them all, leave nothing behind. You may be right. I knew that in the event of a catastrophe, you'd be the only thing that could stop them.
But it sucks, and it could have been so good.
This isn't progress, it's madness.
Yeah, you're probably wondering.
Oh, that looks so good. Does it really all suck?
Well, no. Like I said, killing demons is fun. And that truism of Doom is, and always will be, eternal. When newer Doom hits one of its strides, it does feel pretty good. However, unlike its predecessor, a number of bumps in and on the road prevent this iteration from being a complete composition. Where original Doom, where every level is built like a whole dance. The levels in newer Doom are more of an isolated set of movements, and that one subtle yet crucial distinction is the straw that breaks this demonic camel's back. So let's get to it. If one were to recall what was mentioned previously about level design, you might think upon initial recollection that all prior statements work for newer Doom. That the levels navigate the player to summon, right? Otherwise, people wouldn't be completing levels, right? And to some extent, that is correct. But what we're after here is the same high degree of cohesion between level, weapons, enemies, health, and ammo, such that each element elevates the entire experience of combat and exploration to a near unspeakable harmony, otherwise known as context. So, does newer Doom do that? Well, not only does this iteration fail to accomplish that, as we'll soon cover, newer Doom actively sabotages attempts at establishing communication between its levels and the infamous combat loop.
Oi, don't talk smack about the combat loop, or I will get Gautama to smack you.
There are a few things that need to be addressed about the combat loop, so why don't we start with the obvious one, the one that won't stop flashing in the player's face.
Rip down the spine.
God, would you guys shut up? But, I guess there are other topics that need to be addressed before I can get going on any tangents about the game. Otherwise, you might be a little confused. So let's take it from the top. What exactly is new about newer Doom? Out of all the differences, first and foremost are graphics. Newer Doom is an insanely detailed fight, full of carnage and malevolence, but that much is apparent from first glance. Both original and newer Doom push the boundaries of visual appeal for their respective times, and they do so with massive success. Well, most of the time anyway. The relationship established by visual cohesion in a video game is paramount to its immersion. If the visual story being presented to the audience is ever interrupted from unfitting elements, either intentionally or accidentally, the illusion is broken. And when it comes to a realistic looking game with a higher degree of fidelity, newer Doom necessarily has a taller house of cards that can come crumbling down over the slightest glitch or out of touch idea that pulls the player out of the entire experience. In short, it means that the player is being reminded they're playing a video game, and that's sort of the last thing any game designer should want. But for whatever reason, newer Doom, especially Eternal, has a burning desire to gamify its entire aesthetic with pointless goofs and gaffes that ultimately undermine the realism newer Doom strives to achieve. And I blame Marvel for this kind of crap. Second and most supreme are controls. Unlike Doom Guy, the Doom Slayer can look up and down with his neck, jump, and so much more. A better way of phrasing the second difference is a fundamental difference in what character the player is controlling in the game. Original Doom was the realm of Doom Guy, and newer Doom brings forth the Super Saiyan. I mean, the Doom Slayer. And you gotta say it all epic with no self-awareness like the entire game does about literally everything. Or you can say it like this.
The Doom Slayer and his path for vengeance found a can of Pringles on the sidewalk.
Tiresomely in third, there's a story. The who behind the mask is no longer some guy wrapped in doom, but instead a mindless slayer fueled by tons of rage and demonic PTSD? And no, I don't want to hear the
Excuse me, sir, but if you would just look at your screen, you would realize that the Doom Slayer is the Doom Guy.
because this cutscene makes out the supposed Doom Guy to be a lot louder, less cautious, and far more simple-minded, which could never be the case by virtue of what the gameplay of original Doom demands of its players compared to newer Doom. I mean, just look at this face. Does that face scream, rip, and tear? No, it says, I better watch out because there are demons afoot. A critical difference in tone because there is a critical difference in the relationship between player and a universe now isolated. These two pieces are in constant negotiation, no more. The only good thing about the story in newer Doom is
You've won. It's over. You stopped the invasion and closed the portal. But it's come at a price.
and that's it. His spotlight got ripped apart in Eternal. It's not her. Not that thing. This thing is kind of badass, but the fight is executed in a boring way for how complex newer Doom's controls are. There's also bonus story content from the DLC, introducing characters like... and then there's...
What the hell, that thing?
The writing in newer Doom pivots at a nauseating pace between serious and self-referential, which is just awful. Like, yeah, I get it. This is Doom. Doom is great. Doom was great, Doom will always be great, but we don't need that browbeaten in the whooshy-gooshy of every single cutscene. All this does is waste my very limited time on this earthly plane. Ego Raptor already belabored this point too. These newer games gotta stop wasting time. Forthcoming in fourth is sound. Seems midis couldn't last long in hell, and in its place came something totally different. It's not just music, however. Every wayward blast and enemy slash has been completely redesigned. And I gotta say, some of these sounds like the combat shotgun are an improvement. What previously sounded more like a wet fart in original Doom now becomes... What, the super shotgun? This thing sounds more like a car accident every time it is fired, compared to... which is simply perfection. Newer Doom surprisingly also can't keep its serious pants on in the sound department, with immersive breaking, goofy gamey sounds to let you know when the bad guy's about to get you, or when he's stunned, so you can blast him for a high score. Like, holy fuck, take your job seriously.
But wait, isn't that an intentionality thing you talked about? I mean, the game devs are intentionally letting you know when you can do damage, right? So, isn't that a good thing?
Hey, can someone execute that guy real quick for me?
Oh yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Hey, wait, what are you doing?
Much better. Remember, we're looking for cohesion between each element in the game to elevate the entire experience. And this also applies to the narrative being presented to the player visually, and more importantly for the fourth difference, audibly at all times too. If a player hears...
The beast, does he not seek enhanced power? Gifts to aid him in his noble conquest, perhaps in return for my...
And in the same game, there's obviously a disconnect. Okay, that makes 4. What's next?
Your affinity for guns is apparent. Your affinity for guns is apparent. Your affinity for guns is apparent. Your affinity for guns is apparent.
Firing into 5th are guns. This Super Slaughter has its own personalized roster of weapons, with modifications and attachments meant to augment each weapon's payload to inflict maximum damage. Almost every gun has 2 attachments with few exceptions. And it's not just guns that are new either. The Doom Slayer battles demons in the 21st century with an entire new arsenal of equipment. He's got grenades, flame belch, ice grenades, decoys, the crucible, but then it becomes the sentinel hammer because Marvel Thor was a movie, blood punch, and a siphon grenade, but the Doom Slayer doesn't really use those anymore because freeze is overpowered. Oh.
It's also a chainsaw.
It now runs on fuel and causes enemies to spit out ammo, which, if anything else about newer Doom, is the biggest mistake of this iteration. If this one thing did not exist, this version would be a lot more practical by forcing the level designer to put more careful consideration into where ammo should be placed with the player, and force the player to be more careful with their shots, instead of infinitely refilling ammo with chainsaw loot boxes. It's really hard to take a demonic invasion seriously with colorful Gaga Goombas shooting out of everyone.
But you're not supposed to take it seriously.
Okay, if that were true, then the story, music, and the rest of the visual realism is clashing with this interpretation. You can't tell the player to take the game seriously in some parts and not in others without there being a genuine disconnect that will impact players differently depending on their expectations. And these expectations are inspired by first appearances. And the first appearance of newer Doom is a realistic shooter with demons. But in practice, especially with the direction of Eternal, newer Doom becomes more of a goofy, wannabe retro, perma-jump, dash and smash shooter with too many buttons to press off cooldown to make Adderall-ridden losers feel like their rotting brains are accomplishing something special. Hate to say it, but newer Doom is not hard. In fact, it's painfully easy. Unless the player is on Ultra Nightmare, this iteration of Doom has a limited difficulty ceiling, because the Doom Slayer's gadgets are free armor and widespread burn, free health and freeze, free ammo, armor, health, and a stun, free ammo and a kill, free kill, free kill. It's not hard to use this stuff. And it's also not hard to swap weapons, but holy Christ, some of these newer Doom players act like swapping weapons 10 times while flame belching and ice blasting all in under 1 nanosecond makes them a good player. Newsflash, you aren't skilled at this video game just because you use the ballista and then the super shotgun really fast. Those aren't combos. There aren't combos in this video game. This isn't Mortal Kombat. This game takes no skill to play, nor does the player have to quick swap to survive. So long as the player is constantly moving around in any fight, it is near nigh impossible to die to a single demon. Yup, and there's tons of new faces. Sitting in the shadows on 6 are monsters. In this iteration of Doom, a new den of demons await. Despite appearances, many end up fulfilling the same role as imps. That is, until Eternal forces the player into a matching game with guns. Oh, Eternal. You want players to enjoy being forced to change weapons to meet the demands of the various new enemies you lazily cook up, but all these efforts only further melt away any lingering layers of immersion while playing. At least Doom 2016 was smart enough to understand the beauty of original Doom's simple relationship between guns and enemies. Guns do damage to enemies. I know. When Doom Guy shoots a pistol at an archvile, the pistol is inflicting the same amount of damage as it normally would any other enemy. The only reason why most players don't use that weapon in an actual fight with bigger demons is because its damage is too low to reasonably kill in time. In other words, it isn't practical to do so. Eternal, on the other hand, introduces players to enemies like the Stone Imp, which sounds cool on paper. You know, like a rock-solid imp. Is it just a sturdier, harder imp to kill that maybe does a little more damage? Nope. Use either the Sentinel Hammer or the full auto mod on the shotgun, and these demons die instantly.
So, use shells on these stone imps and they'll die?
No. The player has to use this one particular mod to kill this one particular enemy.
Well, is that because the full auto mod fires a different kind of shell?
Nope, it's only because the game said so.
Oh, okay.
For that matter, where is the sense in these eyeball turrets needing to exist in the game? I mean, like, who even put them here? Did they get teleported in, or did someone build them? Why does the Doom Slayer need to not be too close or too far away in order for the eye to pop out? Or why does the Slayer need to kill the spirits with the microwave mod instead of using any energy-based weapon? I couldn't tell you other than Ghostbusters reference. Who took the time to put armor on a Baron of Hell if it comes off so easily from shooting the metal ball sack hanging off his arm? Why do demons constantly shoot health? Why does lighting demons on fire make armor peel off their skin? None of this makes any practical sense. And even if practicality didn't mean anything, it's not fun. It's not fun to have your demon slaying experience forcibly neutered and become rule-based in a way that takes any agency away from the player. It's not fun to have to play a demon slaying matching game with guns, where the circle gun kills the circle guys and the square gun kills the square guys. Duh, I'm so smart and good because I do the thing. I want to kill demons with whatever gun I feel like using. Is that really too much to ask for? Other than that, tyrants are a lame cyber demon replacement considering other boss enemies are constantly reused in newer Doom, like the Doom Hunter, which really should have only been used for its one boss fight. You spend an entire level hyping up the creation of this dude, only to find out there's like 1 million of them? He was supposed to be the champion for some dumb priest like this Grundle looking thing was. Let cyber demons out and about, but just get rid of that stupid move where he traps you in a lace. Because frankly, I don't know what purpose this dude even served in the story other than being another means of getting back to hell. Pretty much all the other bosses are a snooze fest too, because you always have too many guns and options and mobility to ever worry about losing in a one-on-one fight. And I feel like the game sort of knows that too. And then there's... Marauders are kinda cool, not hard.
Bring up, bring up, bring up, bring up, bring up, bring up.
This is terrible.
Oh my god. It's so funny because he just died and he's saying that it wasn't hard.
But these guys waste way too much time and seize near total control of the pacing of the game whenever the player fights one. It's the shield. If these guys didn't have a shield, way better enemy. Because making sure you don't get too close or go too far until the game lets you do damage is not very fulfilling to the power fantasy newer Doom wants the player to embody. That is until the Doom Slayer acquires the Sentinel Hammer. Then these guys die in one hammer stun. And it's kind of boring. Each Marauder encounter should have had a unique weapon and armor, to be honest.
Yeah, well they don't, cause you're gay.
Oh.
Do not be alarmed by the system update.
Oh, yeah. And every other new demon doesn't stick out in any significant way. It's sad to see all zombie men are the same beyond some having a shield, because everything has to have a shield. Some got a super shield. Lost Souls die on impact for some reason. I really wish the head of a Hell Knight didn't look like an obese elbow. Thanks, Doom 3. Pinkies shouldn't reduce damage done to their faces. And Archies? Oh, id. Why don't Archfiles resurrect fallen enemies anymore? Oh, why do enemies disintegrate shortly after dying? Where are the corpses?
Corpses take up too much memory, and ragdoll physics are too demanding on the engine.
No. Original Doom did this in the 90s. I don't want to hear how damn near 30 years later and you step backward on a core mechanic of one of the most iconic enemies in all of Doom's history. Nuh-uh, not on my watch, pal. Eternal doesn't get off that easy. I can forgive the goofy pinata enemies. I can manage with the low amount of ammo that forces players to use the chainsaw on the goofy pinata enemies every 30 seconds. I can even deal with every major fight taking place in an arena with the same relative size and the same relative layout that makes every single level feel like the exact same but with a different background. But you mess with Archfiles? You crossed the line. There is absolutely no need to care about homing Revenant missiles or multiple Mancubian mayhem when every demon throwing a projectile is basically an imp. Even Archfiles. Killing any of these demons over another is near pointless, but the game won't ever let the player progress until all heavy demons are eliminated. And for that matter, who is putting up all these barriers to impede the player's progress? If these can be placed anywhere, cast one inside the Slayer's throat and be done with it. How do games with significantly higher budgets and team sizes have less collective creativity and overwhelmingly squander the in-game identity of so many demons while simultaneously confining every goddamn fight to a box-shaped arena with no way out until the game decides it's okay to go? Rules. There's far too many rules fighting demons with too many tools. 1 dash, 2 dash, but the Slayer can only hold 3 runes. Why is every arena box-shaped? Why does the chainsaw magically refuel? Why do 20 levels cost $100? Doom 2, by contrast, came out with 32 levels wholesale, and the first episode of Doom 1 came out for free. I dare you to hide behind COVID, you lazy fucks. By the way, I don't see any secret levels. Okay, I'll just read from the script. The 6 key differences we just covered outline different ways in which newer Doom differs from the original. However, I am legally compelled to inform the audience that there are differences between Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. Obviously, such as there are differences between Doom 1 and Doom 2. For our purposes, we are focusing on the major avenues to channel healthy discussion and awareness in our viewers for the purposes of good game development for the future. Furthermore, after highlighting these 6 key differences, we believe it is unnecessary to cover each and every aspect of such differences and acknowledge the existence of other differences. But as an anecdotal point, 13 rockets is not nearly enough to slay with. After establishing a 30-year-old baseline and outlining differences in the new age, it is finally possible to start directly comparing the 2 iterations. So, what's to compare beyond graphics, controls, story, sound, guns, and enemies? Well, the first and most potent point to prod at is the way in which both iterations structure their levels from a fundamental perspective. When broken down to its simplest roots, the levels of original Doom are structured as follows. Players going room to room acquiring weapons, keys, ammo, and power-ups, all while fighting demons to reach the exit. That's it. It's a pretty simple formula that remains consistent throughout each level. And because the formula is simple by nature, it can be iterated on in so many different ways while always remaining true to form. And this is the genius of original Doom's level design. Players can experience hundreds of levels, all with unique elements, takes, or spins, while simultaneously never changing the core of its gameplay. The line between exploration and combat is blurred and less defined in original Doom, which allows for an organic synthesis between these two modes of play that feels almost seamless.
Oh yeah, and pistol starting. Yeah, you thought I would let you forget about pistol starting. Hell no. Pistol starting is cool and a man's way to judge each level on its individual merits, like a stone cold badass with nothing but a pistol and 100 health.
By contrast, the levels in newer Doom, when broken down, force players to linearly explore faux hallways with some goofy movement jump puzzle filled with relatively little to no enemies that spill into areas with bunches of enemies that almost always lock the player in until all demons of that area are slain, that then lead to more trick hallways with movement Quizlets. Ay. Newer Doom splits combat and exploration into two distinct modes of play that rarely overlap and communicate almost, well, never. What I mean is, exploring is almost always exploring with... Oh, let me do that again. Exploring is almost always... Wait, what? Exploring is always exploring, with maybe a... Exploring is always exploring, with maybe a stray cacodemon every now and then, and combat never involves simultaneous exploration of the level. What is this?
Oh, what? Stop. No.
Combat for newer Doom is fun at times, but it is a stunted, fragmented, and an isolating experience from the rest of the level. Hell, even the music changes to subconsciously alert players to a change in the game's behavior and expectations. That's why there's that meme about when the Doom music kicks in, because that's the Pavlovian signal for the mindless sheeple to start drooling and begin shooting at bad guys. Where's a dynamic demon-infested base on Mars instead of pretty prepared gore nests in the center of rooms like I'm some hired exterminator at a theme park? What I'm saying is the level design and gameplay loop of newer Doom is incredibly rigid to the point of pure predictability. It's boring to walk from exploration hallway to exploration hallway and then be dumped into a somewhat open area and immediately you know what's gonna happen. There's absolutely no mystery. Sure, there are secrets, but even those aren't really secretive because there are no hidden doors or fake walls. It's just some nook that the auto map shows the player they can reach if they're semi-conscious enough to look at it. Anyone can figure out how to collect these stupid baubles or trinkets the devs leave behind in a super realistic world where dumb fourth wall breaking toys of demons exist. Aren't we so cute and smart? No, none of this is. Like, who really sat there working on this game and consciously thought for a realistic demon slaying M-rated title, Doom needs to be a cute collectathon? It's nice, but you know what would have been nicer? Variety in level design and just more levels. Because there's hardly any in newer Doom. There are no community map packs for newer Doom. There ain't no wads, and there's no pistol starting in newer Doom. Only reptile-brained toddlers who suck on their flame-belching thumb and cry like a little ice-bomb baby think this game is hard. Let me tell ya, I bet those heathens do need blood punches to get through fights with 5 bad dudes, or maybe use that precious crucible or some weapon mods. Original Doom would eat man-children like them for breakfast.
I'd love to see any of these weapon-swapping Uzis try to pistol start even 5 maps, so chillax.
And yes, I know there's an option to kind of pistol start some master levels, but it doesn't really count.
Once the spirit is broken and enough pain has been inflicted, only when the human has lost all hope will it be transferred to the soul extraction chamber. The demons only utilize a portion of the resources that come from the human soul. It was the Makers and the Sentinel Priests who discovered and unlocked the true power of the Essence. They combined Sentinel and Hell energies together, refined and created large.
pistol starting is an irrelevant point, but not for the purposes of understanding how difficulty is gauged in Doom levels from the perspective of level design. Where did pistol starting come from? Well, it came from id Software not knowing the order of many levels of Doom 2, or even some episodes of Doom 1. That's why episode 2 feels harder than episode 3. What this translates to is making every level feel unique on its own terms. The levels aren't based on the before and after, which is the design philosophy newer Doom adopts. Newer Doom predicates the context for its levels on the philosophy that the experience is continuous, and that's not a bad thing on its own. It could even be viewed as a good thing to make the entirety of Newer Doom's campaign what original Doom does in each one of its levels. If only that worked. Sadly, it don't. Why? Because the kinetics are all wrong. The kinetics being go down dumb exploratory hallway into arena that leads into another hallway, then arena, then hallway, then arena, then hallway. It's too repetitive. That's why the level design of Newer Doom compared to original Doom sucks ass. Now, visually, Newer Doom is cooler, and unlike the levels of Doom 2, you don't ever stop and ask, where am I? Or what place is this level trying to be? Oh, Nirvana? Yeah, you know, that place on Earth. Don't look at me. I never said original Doom was perfect, just that it was really, really good. Nowadays, though, most people play WADs. Beyond strictly speaking about level design, the second big upside to original Doom is its legacy, and more importantly, its ever-growing library of levels made by community members and even legendary members of id Software that once worked on the originals 30 years ago. Basically, you're not gonna see anyone do to Doom Eternal what the world did with Doom 2, and that's an open invitation, because honestly, I'd love to play a Hell Revealed style map set of Doom Eternal and actually have to fight more than 3 Hell Knights and a few imps at a time, but that's probably never going to happen, right? And speaking of legacy, Newer Doom didn't really break any barriers in the same manner as original Doom did back in '93. Yeah, the graphics are nice, but glory kills are not something to be proud of because it only excuses bad level design, acting more or less as a distraction for the player. Also, because the player always has access to an ever-expanding inventory, the Slayer rarely needs to care about where to go in a fight when all it takes is a few button presses to nullify any threat after a few levels. And the first few levels are full of weaker enemies, making said acquisition of weapons an easy task that never becomes hard because the challenges are always gauged around the weapons the Slayer has access to.
Isn't it good game design though?
Not when the first time the Pinky is introduced, the player already has access to remote detonation rockets that make short work of these guys. And at most, only 4 Pinkies show up at a time, so they're not even hard. I don't understand what the point of all this is. What if, instead, in Newer Doom, the Slayer's inventory reset on death, or when the player loaded in a particular level, and that way the player would have to pick up different weapons throughout each level, so each level would have an equal chance of sticking out in the player's mind, and not just blur into a seamless mess that'll largely be forgotten except for the BFG go boom moments, because, that's the wow factor for the kiddies and all. Enemies are the problem in Doom, but when the player has too many solutions to too many similar problems with very little variance, the fun equation in demon slaying leaves far too much to be desired. The Slayer can never respect a tyrant the same way Doom Guy has to respect a cyber demon, because the difference between fighting a cyber demon head-on and finishing a level without killing them comes down to what weapons the level provides the player with, but that fear and respect original Doom instills in its gameplay is impossible for Newer Doom to achieve with an arsenal that only grows and grows over time. In Newer Doom, there are no chain gunners in windows, nor revenants perched atop pillars to rain homing fire down from above. Not even Archviles are capable of reviving a single zombie man in this load of crap. Why rush to kill a pain elemental when they hardly do anything but float around and sometimes chuck lost souls that aren't even a nuisance anymore? Enemies don't serve a purpose for levels outside of generically running and jumping around, then attacking. Nobody's guarding a super shotgun or blocking the way to an important room. It's just mandatory arena after mandatory arena. Oh, there's a green goblin that inflicts a debuff that you gotta cure by only blood punching, because in the demon world, obviously, blood punching erases all scratch curses. Because, you know, that makes sense and it's practical, right? Someone get me out of here. I can't take it anymore. It's too poorly thought out. There's no sign of evil or awareness in this dimension. Take me back. Take me back. What? Ugh. Ah.
You have the crucible, and with it the means to contain the power of the well.
Oh my god.
We have a plan to send you there. Freya will walk you through the process.
Oh crap. Oh my god. There really is no escape, is there? The only way out of this mess must be to face the music and see this thing through to the end. Strapped to a chair reading a script for some 30-year-old game that will never know my name before fans that probably think this entire ordeal has been nothing but lame. Hey, I'm sorry. They said they'd let me go if I did what they told me to do. But this is too much.
No, don't. Don't show me those. Anything but snap maps.
I just wish newer Doom wasn't so f***ing stupid.
I'm gonna cancel you. I'm gonna cancel you.
It could have been a really fun game. That's pretty much like the gist of how I feel, you know?
As much as anyone would love to believe in the potential of snake maps, given how graphically complex newer Doom is, the subsequent map editor needed to be able to allow players to create levels with the same, if not greater, level of detail and polish as commercial maps, which Snap Maps does not offer. And Eternal just doesn't have a level editor? I guess that was just way too hard to implement on such a small budget with only a handful of people working on the game, right? Oh, those game developers who don't want their communities to create. That's the main reason why newer Doom will never have the same impact on the world as original Doom did. The community of newer Doom can't easily create demon-infested worlds of their own and share it online for others to experience. And that sucks. Like a lot. Like a lot. But listen, despite all of these totally true insights we've uncovered and completely indisputable faults of these games we've acknowledged, personally, I still really enjoy playing both versions of Doom. Each has a unique look, sound, and feel. New or old, like we said at the beginning of the video, Doom is Doom. And what matters most of all is not which one we might like more, even though in all measurable fields, original Doom is way by and far the better game. What matters most of all is realizing that demons are the enemy of mankind. We should acknowledge that the only way to defeat them is by fighting every single day instead of sinfully sleepwalking through the dream we call life. No, shut up. Can't you see I'm trying to have a moment with the viewer? Okay, look, you might not have an actual revenant or a real archvile in your closet, at least for now anyway, but every creature that moveth upon this land under the great light of the sun inevitably casts a shadow of its own. Whether it be Eve's curiosity or Cain's jealousy, the world tempts each one of us into the depths of all kinds of hells and nightmares. And for many, the darkness looming in the background of our lives is often too frightening to face. And in our escape, we fly from the fear of reality and into the hollow embrace of illusions.
illusions born of this world meant to bury our minds away from the troubles therein. The vast void of space is nothing compared to the void inside, and sometimes that darkness can be so great it can make us forget about the light. Sometimes the gravity of the world can feel like it's too much for us to handle, that someone else would be better off in our shoes, mending our troubled roads. But one mustn't forget that the eternal fire only shines brighter the more darkness surrounds it. You know, it's like that one goofy kid said at the end of the world.
The heart may be weak, and sometimes it may even give in. But I've learned that deep down there's a light that never goes out.
It's never too late to pick yourself up off the flesh-infested ground. Honestly, facing those inner fiends is the only way to climb out of hell and scramble back towards some semblance of sanity. You can't kill a cyber demon if all you do is look away and miss, and you can't run away from an archvile forever. At some point, we all must face our demons. It won't always be easy or pretty, and it might even be a little scary. But that's what each of us does for the daisy in our lives, for the things that matter most. And I promise you, the effort matters. It always will, even if nobody else notices. But in case you're still a little intimidated to go face the demons in your own life, here's a badass 30-year-old game to help you prepare for the journey ahead. Or if you just want to have some real fun, DooM, one of the best games ever made. A gift that never truly stops giving, an eternal beacon of fun and fright, and to this day, an inspiration for generations to come.
Oh my god, finally we're done with this awful game series. I can stop talking about it. Oh, this thing's still on. I mean, we made it to the end. Man, get this thing off of me. I can't believe it. Already 2 hours went by. Jesus. Man, we didn't even really get to talk about like any of the controls and why, none of them were used to any great benefit. I mean, like the addition of jumping, right? So, like, what was the purpose of adding jumping that ramps wouldn't have accomplished? And dashing? I mean, why can't Doom Go just be fast? Why do there need to be dashes? We never really got to explore that. And no player created content can't be stressed enough. They're trying to be like, oh, there's laws and blah blah blah. But it's not the same. There's no coherent level editor.
Wait, another.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Let's try this one time.